Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim Phil Potts, and oh how amazing you'll be.
Oops, my microphone was off. Welcome back to Friday, everyone. It's Friday, so it's Xamarin UI Challenge Day. Thanks, Beard and More. I was on mute. You're correct. Hopefully, I'm not anymore. I can see my audio coming through, so I think I should be okay. Beautiful. All right, so it's Friday, so we're going to continue working on the Xamarin UI Challenge. Just for those who haven't joined in the last couple of sessions, we're working on this design here by Fadhila Rizki. It's a nice little fishing application, got a really nice layout. There's basically three screens in this. There's an onboarding screen, which has a nice carousel on it as we go through. We've got this main detail screen, which shows the location of fishing sites, and it has a nice carousel view in here, but pretty nice layout. Nice sort of custom tab down the bottom here as well. So far we've worked on these two screens. They're kind of looking okay. Let's have a quick look at the implementation that we have here. So this is what we have. Actually, I just noticed that this text could do a little bit of work down here for this button. So it looks like it's wrapping on iOS, so we might have to do something there. But the idea is we've got this first screen, which is a carousel view, which allows us to swipe between the various items here. And you can see it has this nice little sort of progress updated here as well. So that's kind of nice. Okay. And then when we hit the go button, we go to the main page. So that's the design. So as we can see here, we've got this screen looking pretty good. Carousel view here. Okay. A couple of cool things that we did in here. Layout was pretty straightforward. Probably the most interesting thing is how we did this section here with the various people as well. So that was kind of fun. Okay, so that's what we've got so far. Now, what I want to work on is I want to now work on this screen over here. Okay, so this screen, if I just get these out of the way, let's have a look at that. Okay, this screen over here, what we have is, probably zoomed in a little too much. Let me zoom that back out a little bit. Okay, so what we have here is we've got a nice screen with an image in the background, and then it has some sort of annotations onto this as well with the various location of the fish at the fishing site. Okay, so my assumption here and how this would work, just given the fact that we've got these little annotations that are sort of showing an arrow this way and an annotation that's showing it that way, is that what the user is going to be able to do is they're going to be able to swipe sort of or pan back and forth across a large image here, and it's going to show the location of the fish there. And probably as well, if I was designing this, I would do something like Oops. Something like, when you click on one of these fish, it probably updates the information here. Or maybe what it does, it's up to us, we can work it out however we want, with just the basic layout here, is maybe it keeps this top section here, okay? And this bit down here with the fish and its bite times is perhaps a carousel view. So maybe we could swipe between these and it would sort of bring this, whatever fish we've selected, into view. Or maybe as we scroll across and one of these, like this fish here, comes into view, it updates this carousel view. Maybe that's how we want to do it. I don't know. But what we will do is let's just start off with the basics here. In today's stream, let's just try and get a scrollable view, a scrollable panorama, and perhaps some annotations going as well. And I think the approach we'll use for that is to probably use something like SkiaSharp in order to do that, because it's pretty custom. You can see it's got this cute little indicator here. It's got sort of a little flyout. So this is not something we can kind of just sort of natively do in Xamarin.Forms. So SkiaSharp seems like a pretty good option. So there you go. That's what we'll tackle. And just in terms of navigation, perhaps if we press this button here, it takes us to this screen here. So maybe we'll have a navigation page that takes us between these two. But like I said, let's just focus on this one, see how much we get done today. All right. So hopefully everyone's doing good. Thanks for joining us. I say beer and more, but that's probably wrong. It might be Baradmore. I don't know. Anyway, welcome. Thanks for joining us. All right. So let's get started. Now, what I did do beforehand, because I didn't want to waste people's time sort of squiggling images around the place, is I actually added some images in for some backgrounds. So I found a couple of nice panorama images. B-Rad, of course. We've talked about this before. So I've got this image here, which is a nice huge image of a location. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll put our various fish in different places on here. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, first of all, we get this image and we make it scroll. That's step number one. Now, for the locations of them, probably what I was thinking is that we have something like anchor points, right? So we have like an anchor X, and we might have an anchor Y, right? And the anchor X and the anchor Y would be basically proportional in terms of this. So if we wanted something to appear sort of in the middle down here, that's where one of our fish were, we might have an anchor X of 0.5 because it's halfway across the image, right? And for our anchor Y, it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe about 0.75 down, right? So 0.75 from the top here. So that seems like a reasonable way of doing it, because you wouldn't want to do it in terms of like pixel locations probably. We'll take the anchor and we'll convert it into pixel locations. All right, so that's the plan, peeps. That's the plan. So feel free to ask questions as we go through. Provide suggestions for things that I'm doing wrong, or better ways of doing things, because it's all about learning. All right, let's duck over to some code and let's see what we have. Okay, so I've got a Xamarin.Forms application, got Android, got iOS in here as well. And just in case anyone didn't see, by the way, the code for this is in GitHub at this location, and the design is here on Dribble as well. Beautiful. Okay, so let's start off. We probably want to create ourselves a new page, I think. Now, do I have view models? I got models, I got templates, I got controls. I don't really have a views page. I'm just jamming them in here. Maybe we'll refactor that later. Of course, refactoring later is my favorite thing to do. So let's put a refactor count there of 1. And let's add a page in here. So I'm going to add a new page. We're going to put a content page in here. We're going to call it something like fishing location page, maybe. Probably sounds about right. All right. And we mentioned that we're going to use SkiaSharp. So let's add SkiaSharp, everyone's favorite drawing app. SkiaSharp. And we'll add SkiaSharp views. Oh, no, Windows Forms. We don't want Windows Forms. This is not Windows Forms. This is Xamarin.Forms. Beautiful. Okay, so we've got that. And I think it has a dependency, on SkiaSharp and SkiaSharp views. So it's going to bring those in for me. Let's add that into our project. Now, with the images, I could put them in as embedded resources. That could be a thing, but more likely for an app like this, you're going to be getting them from a web resource. So I'm just going to pull them from that GitHub repository, just as the raw images themselves. Okay, so we've got SkiaSharp almost installed. There we go. I think we're done there. And we got hello Xamarin.Forms. Very cool. Let's provide a way of navigating to this page. Now, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to use a navigation page. Well, we don't have to. We could, if we have a look at this, not this, if we have a look at this, in order to go from like this page here to this page, we could pop this up, right? And then this is our dismiss button. That is certainly an option that we could go for. At the moment, just to keep things nice and simple though, perhaps we'll do it as a navigation page. We can always change it later on. Because that'll just give us a way of navigating back and selecting a different item in there. Okie dokie. So let's come to our main page here, and we're going to have to wrap this in a navigation page. So why don't we do this? And this will make it look a little bit wonky probably, but we'll fix it later on. As I say, we'll refactor it later on. So there we are. We're going to refactor counter 2. Beautiful. Alrighty, so we've got our navigation page. Now in our main page, we've got a bit of code down here. Under our recommended spots, we have this image button here. Okay, so that is basically this button here, okay, that we want to use to, let's have a look at this one here. This one here, we'll launch it through that, okay? So all we'll do is we'll just add a click onto this puppy. Okay, let's go to that definition. And let's do something like, I don't know, navigation page dot. Or actually, how about push async? And then we'll say we'll create a new fishing location page. All right. That probably, let's start this building because it'll take a while because it's got SkiaSharp in the picture as well. That should probably take us to that page. We'll just test that first of all. Building. Oops. Don't want to do that. Always when we add a new assembly, it takes a little bit longer to build. Almost there. You got this, Android. Okay, so you see we've got a navigation page. So we'll get rid of that navigation header later on. Click on here. Hey, and we're at Welcome to Xamarin.Forms. Beautiful. So we did get to our page. That's a good thing. But probably what we want to do is we want to get rid of this. Let's talk about the structure of the page. A grid. I think a grid with SkiaSharp in here. Sounds about right to me. And then later on, you know, this won't be SkiaSharp. This will be a content view probably. And we'll put that down the bottom. So probably don't even need any rows or columns. We'll probably just have a grid as our go-to here. All right, so let's just throw this in. Let's just throw in a grid. And what we want to do is we want to add in a Skia canvas, right? Which is what called an SK canvas view. And of course, it's not going to be able to find that. So let's add a namespace in there. Lovely. If we go and have a look at our app here, it should have now cleared it off. Beautiful. If we wanted to test that, we could give it like a background color just to make sure it's being displayed. And sure enough, it is. All right, cool. So we have some background color. Yeah. Let's look at our Skia canvas, which is occupying the full screen. Let's get rid of that for the moment. Okay, so I guess the first thing we want to do would be perhaps to just actually have some code that paints. So for a Skia canvas, we have a paint surface. We go ahead and we add that. We'll probably give this puppy a name as well. Let's give this a name. And maybe we'll call this our panorama. Panorama? Panorama? How do you spell panorama? Who knows how to spell panorama? Panorama. All right. I didn't know how to spell panorama. Cool. So we've got a panorama there. Okay, let's go and view our code. Now, we're going to, I would suggest, be writing a little bit of code here to load up our images and to sort of set our positions and things like that. So why don't we just start with, now we don't want to do that in the constructor. Constructor is a really bad place to do something time consuming like loading an image, for example. So why don't we do it in our onAppearing? So we'll override our onAppearing. We'll do our base, and then we'll go ahead and we'll get, we'll have an SK bitmap. Okay, which is going to be our background bitmap. Okay, so that's going to be our background. So what I want to do here, excuse me, is we're going to want to do something like load our background image. Okay, so In order to do that, we're going to need to have ourselves some data. We're going to have the URL of this. So in the other page, what is bound to the various, if we come, maybe this one's still running. Basically, this thing here has a binding context of something like a fishing location view model. Okay, something like that. Okay, and it has a fishing location model. Okay, but let's pass this fishing location view model into this page. So the way that we can do that is if we go back into our main page, where we are launching this, let's pass it in. So let's, well, actually, probably what we'll do here is, I'm thinking create our location page, and we'll get the current item that's selected in the carousel view, and we'll pass that in, right? So we'll say, let's create a location page, right? And we'll say this is a new fishing location page. And then we'll pass into it from our carousel view. So what's that called? Do we have a name for that? We don't. Okay, let's give our carousel view a name, because we're going to want to reference the selected item in here. So we'll say its name is something like our fishing location carousel. Sure. And we'll say we're going to pass into it the binding context for that, which is a fishing location model. So if we say our fishing location carousel, our current item, and we'll pass that in as a fishing location view model. Do we have one of those? Yeah, as a fishing location view model. And we're going to have to add a parameter. Is that going to work for us? Let's have a look. And then what we'll do is we'll navigate to that page. Let's go and have a look and see whether we've got that constructor in there. We did. Okay. So probably what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to probably want to store this out. So we'll say this dot view model equals fishing location view model. So we'll just store that because I'm sure we're going to have to reference it later on. Let's create ourselves a field for that. Beautiful. Sound good? Okay, something like that. That'll probably do us. That will get us our information. Now, actually, I don't think, if we go and have a look at our fishing location view model, we've got a location which is exposed, which is our fishing location model. So that has the lat long, it has the people, it has the fish. We definitely need that. It has a location thumbnail and a map view thumbnail. They are these ones here. I would suggest we want to have a panorama image. Okay, something like that. All right, so once we have that panorama image, we actually want to populate it, don't we? So we've kind of been a little bit cheeky here in our main view model. We're just sort of setting the data in here, right? So this is our fishing location view model. This has our people. And it has our fish. Yep, okay, cool. So let's add that into these here. So into our fishing location view model. We have a map thumb view. Let's put in our panorama image. And I'm just going to get these from a web resource. I don't know where my cursor go. Okay, so if we go back to my good friend GitHub here. Okay, let's go and open the image on a new tab, and hopefully, there we are. We'll get the raw image. Okay, so this is the web location we're going to download this image from. So Lake Panorama 1. Of course, you'd put that on a real web server, blah, blah, blah. And just for expedience, let's, in our second location, let's also put one in, but this will be Panorama 2. Let me just check it's called Panorama 2. Pretty sure that's what I created. Oops. Didn't seem to open the image in a new tab. It seemed to download it. Oh, well, let's have a look at it. There we are. So there's our second image. All right, that's what we're going to use. So we now have that in our model. So theoretically, we should now have all the information we need based on that view model. Let's just check. It should be from our view model dot location dot panorama image. Okay, cool. I'm just going to run this and just check that we actually get that value in here. Okay, we go explore, we come to this lake here, we click this button. We do have Panorama 1, beautiful. Of course, we're not doing anything with it at the moment, but if we go to page 2, we've got Panorama 2. Beautiful, exactly what we want. Okay, now because we don't have hot reload on our good friend C# here at the moment, I'm gonna have to write some code here. So there's going to be lots of stopping and starting, I suppose, of our application. Hang on just 1 second. It's school holidays at the moment, so I expect I'll have lots of people jumping in on the stream. Hi, Kellogg. How you doing? Welcome. Kellogg. How am I? I'm good. I'm good. It's school holidays here in Melbourne, Australia. So just sort of put in a couple of hours of streaming here before going off and playing around the parks with the kids. But, things are good, thanks. All right, so we've got a panorama page. Now, what we need to do is we need to go and load this up. So there's quite a bit of stuff we're going to have to do with bitmaps, I think, right? So I'm going to try and structure this sort of roughly right as we go through. but I'm going to have some helpers in here. And I know that there's some helpers that SkiaSharp has that I'm going to use. But let's create ourselves, the traffic's great. That's exactly right, Matt. Let's create ourselves a bitmap helper. .cs. Okay. Probably a static class. Okay, bitmap helpers. Now, we want to load this code from a resource, right? So we want to have a method which is something like, we'll make it a static. It's gonna load something, so from a web resource, so we want to make it async. And what it's going to return is it's going to return an SK bitmap. All right. So because it's that, we're going to have a task like that. I'm going to add that using in. And we'll call this something like load bitmap from URL. And then we'll take in a URL. All right, cool. Now I know that there's definitely some good resources here on SkiaSharp load bitmap from URL. All right. This is from Matt. Which version of Xamarin.Forms? Hi, Fiakama. Which version? Probably 5. Probs. Let's have a look. 5.2012. There we are. That's what I'm using. Now, Matt, he's the king of all things, SkiaSharp, so we can trust his code. So we could do something like that. So what are we doing? We basically go and we get ourselves a memory stream. And then we can use, we can use skbitmap.decode. Okay, so then go and decode a stream. All right, let's try that. So let's put all of this in usings, right? So we'll say, let's go get a stream first of all. Is it a shell navigation app? It's not using shell, no. This application is just, because it's just a few pages. And also because I've got this sort of custom nav bar down the bottom here, I've just used straight Xamarin.Forms for this, and there's only a few pages. So I'm not using shell for this one. But hi, Capital Twitch. Welcome. Okay, so we need to have HTTP client. Now, HTTP client is something which I'm pretty sure somebody else in the chat might have opinions on this, but hey, Eden Nielsen. Good morning. Yeah, good morning. And thanks for the follow. Eden Nielsen. I don't know how to say that, but welcome. Now, what I was saying is HTTP client, right? I think a common thing people do is they new up a HTTP client every time. And I don't think you're supposed to do that. I think you're supposed to keep one HTTP client around and reuse it. Right, so we'll create a HTTP client, right? We'll just create that puppy once, and then we're going to say HTTP client dot get stream async. Okay, and we can pass in the URL. and we're going to await that. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use we're going to create a memory stream. So something like using memory stream, right? And we're going to say that's a new memory stream, right? So we're going to let's basically stream it through memory. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go and copy all of that stuff, right, into like basically get our memory stream, right? So we're going to go to our stream. I've done this a few times before, but we're going to go and copy to async. We're going to copy that into our mem stream like this. And then we're going to want to say, basically go back to the start. Okay. And then we're going to go to the beginning of the stream. Beautiful. And then we're going to decode the bitmap. Okay, so something like if we've got a SK bitmap, right, which is like our web bitmap, we should be able to go sk bitmap dot decode. And so like this is stuff that you should just have in a helper library somewhere, which is why I put it in helpers, because I'm going to do this a fair bit. Get everything from the memory stream. Because we've got usings, it's going to clean up all of that stuff. But what we want to do is we want to return our web bitmap. Something like that. Okay. That was a lot of boilerplate code that I should just have in a GitHub repo somewhere. Load bitmap from URL. Let's see if it works. So we should be able to go bitmap helper dot load bitmap from URL. Go and get our image URL. And all things going well, we could then say our background bitmap equals, this is awaitable, so we have to await that. And because it's awaitable, we're going to await all the things. All right. So that should hopefully get us a bitmap. Now, what we could do is we can just go and I suppose just paint that onto the screen. We're going to have to do a lot more work on this, but let's see if we can get it straight off. So we're going to have a standard signature that we sort of do in here. We want to get the info from here. We want to get the surface, which is e.surface, and we're going to want to have the canvas, right? Which is e.info.canvas, surface.canvas. I wish those things were passed in. It's kind of like things you always need in SkiaSharp. Now I'm going to put in a bit of code here just to say if our background bitmap is not equal to null or equals null. I just don't want it to crash. We'll return out of here. Okay. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll say, let's get our canvas and we'll clear our canvas. And then we'll say, let's draw canvas.draw bitmap. Our background bitmap. And let's just put it at 0, 0, shall we? And there's probably a lot we're going to have to do with this, but at the moment, let's just put it at 0, 0 and see what happens. So I reckon that's enough code to get our image displaying, assuming this stuff works. And that's a big if, of course. And we'll talk about the strategy we'll use, because there's probably a lot of cleaning up we want to do around these images and how we're doing things as well. All right, so we come here, and we fail. Okay, let's put a breakpoint here. And you fail. Wait, no, I got a button for that.
And you fail.
Cool. We've got an image URL. Let's see if we get our bitmap. Let's put it here. Okay, we definitely got a bitmap. It's got bytes in it. Why you no want to draw? All right, it's probably this bit of code here. It's probably because it's trying to paint the canvas before it's actually got the before it's got the image. So why don't we tell it to panorama.invalidate surface. So tell it to go and redraw itself after it's loaded the image. Let's see if that helps us. Where's my app here? I might actually, well, let's just have a look. So we go here. Here we go. So we got our image, right? So here's our image. You can see that it's not the right size and it's going off the side of the screen. Okay, that's understandable. Let's just check that if I come to this one, yeah, we get a different image. Beautiful. Okay, cool. So definitely getting our images. So that's a good thing, right? Victory for that. Now, what I think is probably a good idea here, right, is we're based on different size devices. We're never going to have a bitmap which is exactly the right size, right? Because, well, just because of different size devices, right? So we're going to want to, we could either have all of this maths to scale it. So let me sort of bring up this for a second. Right. So our image in reality is a panorama, right? So our image is actually like this, right, off the side of the page. Now, that's going to require some scaling maths in order to scale it. And we don't want to do that every time we redraw it. So I think the best option here is basically once we get this image, let's scale it out so that it's the full size of the page, right? Which is going to basically create an image like that, right? I should say like that, right? And then I'm not sure whether SkiaSharp, how clever it is to ignore things that are drawing outside of the bounds of the screen. But what I'm kind of imagining here, in order to do our panorama, is we're going to have this like window that's the size of their screen, which is going to slide, right? So basically, when we move it across, we might then get this section of the screen, which we display there, or this section of the bitmap, which we display there. And then if we're scrolling over, we're here, we'll get this section and put it over here. Okay, so that's kind of how we can do our scrolling. Now we could try and use a scroll view from Xamarin.Forms, but I don't think that's going to work for us. All right, so we got a background image. Let's resize the image for the screen, because that's what we're going to be rendering all the time. Lots and lots and lots of times. So in order to do that, we need to work out our scale, right? Because we can't just sort of expand it down. We've got to proportionally scale it out. So if we just say our scale, or maybe our scale, image scale, right? We can basically say, let's go and have a look at the height of the view. So that's our panorama canvas size height, right? So for example, on our image here, if the image is sort of only, if our screen's this big and our image is this big, we're going to basically want to double the size of the image. Whereas if the image was this big, we would want to reduce it down so that it's only in this space here. So it would basically go to that size, if that makes sense. So we want to get the height of the canvas view, and we want to divide it by, I'm just going to rename this actually. I'm just going to put this as like our web bitmap or our original bitmap. And we'll do our scaling, and then we'll save the bitmap that we get as a result. So we'll say our original bitmap. Original bitmap, which should be an SK bitmap. So it should have a height. Now, original bitmap. And we're going to get its height, because that's all we're doing. We're assuming that it's a panorama that's wider than it is high. So we're kind of taking a little bit of a cheat here. Okay, so we've got that. Now what we want to do is we want to basically say there's a original bitmap dot resize, which takes has a couple of things. It has an info there, or it has a size. Good night from Brazil. Good night, Brazil. So we're going to resize this, right? So in order to do that, we need to work out how big our new image is going to be. And this is going to be a SK size I. Okay, so we'll say, let's create a SK size I, which is going to be our new image size. And that, we're going to new that puppy up. And we're going to have all the Brazils. Must be Brazil time. So what we want to do is we want to get our width times our scale, right? So if we say our original bitmap dot, why is my original bitmap dot? So we need our width times our image scale. And we want our height, which is going to be our original bitmap dot height times our image scale. So that should, hey Bandros, wee. That should give us the new dimensions of our image. Of course, we've got to do some casting because casting. And now we should be able to say, let's go and resize to our new image size with a filter quality of high. Sure, why not? We don't want to lose too much, right? We want it to take its time, create a nice one. So when we do a resize, this is going to return a new SK bitmap. Okay, so this is where we want to go. Background bitmap equals our original bitmap dot resize. All right. So if we do that and then we invalidate it and we're using our bitmap and we're drawing it at 0, 0, we should have our images now exactly the height of the screen. Am I implementing a gesture? Yeah, you see a canvas being used. Look, I'm going to, wait on, let's just wait for the app to spin up. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. All right, cool. Now it's going to take some time to load that image, right? We might want to do some caching and stuff like that, but we can see that now the image is the right size. And if I come back and I come to this other one, even though these images are different sizes, it should still be the right size, okay? This looks squishy, but the original image looks squishy as well, okay? So I think that is actually scaled correctly. And in fact, we could do this, right? We could come back and our new image size is 7,270 by 2112. Our original bitmap had a height of 1080. Okay, so it has resized it. It said, hey, you know what, my canvas size height, 2112. The new image size, yep, has a height of 2112. Cool. So it's resized that, case that puppy off into the background so that we don't have to resize it every single time we draw it. Winning. All right. Now, Bandros, what are we going to do? We're not going to allow people to draw, but we are going to put a gesture recognizer in, because what we want to do, if we go and have a look at the original design here, right, is, let's zoom this in a little bit if we can, right? What we want to be able to do is we want the user to be able to swipe this way or this way, and we want to scroll that image, right? We want to go across the panorama, and we want to draw these markers in at various places, okay, based on where the fish are on the actual location. We probably also implement like a tap on each of these as well, right? So we can do that. You could even implement it, you know, I mean, if I was actually writing this app and I wasn't just sort of playing around with UI stuff, you'd probably say that, you know, I could, maybe there'd be like a, I mean, this would be cool. You'd have a little plus sign or something like that, right? If you click that and then you click here, maybe a pop-up would come and say, hey, so there's a new fish there. So, you know, enter the details of the fish. I'm not going to bother with any of that, right? Because again, this is just for me to explore things that I haven't done. So in this case, it's panoramas and pop-ups and this stuff here. Anyway, so hopefully that answers your question. So we will have a gesture recognizer. In fact, we should just slap in a gesture recognizer now, right? Oh, the other thing as well that we could do, and maybe we'll have a play around with, is we'll use the sensors so that if you have a phone, you know, and you turn your phone around, you know, you move it around like this, it will also do it. So it gives it kind of like an AR feel, which would be cool. I don't know how in reality you would relate that to the real world for this app, but anyway, we're just playing around. Cool. So we've got our images, right? Or at least we've got part of our image. we got that first section of it. Now, what we're doing at the moment, like I said, is we're just drawing like a big old fat rectangle image over here. And this is the only bit that fits on the screen, right? This bit here. Now, I don't know whether SkiaSharp knows, like I'm assuming actually it just does some wacky stuff with like copying things to screen memory locations. I don't know whether bit blitting out something really big like this takes any more resources than saying, let's just copy this part of the image. But I'm going to assume that it's better to not copy more bits in memory than you should. So I think when we draw this, we're going to have an offset, right? So our original image, sorry to ramble on, but it's kind of useful for people. Maybe it's useful for people, I don't know, to think about how the strategy here. So the strategy here then is we're going to have like an offset. So at the moment the offset is 0, 0, right? But as you scroll, right, we're basically going to move a window across, which we're then going to paste here, right? So now our offset is for the image is over to here, but we're still only going to copy these bits here, right, in this section here to the screen. So it may be more complex than we need to do, and maybe SkiaSharp just deals with all that for us. But who knows, right? Well, I'll tell you who knows. Matt knows. But I don't. So we've got our image now. What we want to do now is, instead of just painting here, let's have a position and let's draw it based on that position. So we'll adjust this here. So there's a couple of ways we could do this. I'm going to just try to have a gesture recognizer, because we've got a pan gesture recognizer, right? And that may be enough for what we want. So if I go into here and I say SK Canvas View dot gesture recognizers, and then I put in a pan gesture recognizer, and then there's like an update. Yep. Right. And what that's going to do is that's going to pass me how far the person has panned, if that makes sense, right? And so what we can do is we can then adjust like our scroll position. Just going to stop this running because we're going to write some code here. Okay, so we have our pan, and then we've got our E dark magic. This is not dark magic. It's just code. Now we have a total X and a total Y. I don't know. Right. So this is interesting, right? Yeah, it actually tells us here. It says, just a kind of magic, just a kind of magic. Gets the total change in the X direction since the beginning of the gesture. Right. So there is a status type. And the status type is, this is what our gestures can do, right? Our gestures can start, which means you're starting panning. It can run. So this is where we're going to want to do it, like work out how far we are panning. right? So that's where we're going to adjust our position. We got completed, which means they've pulled their finger off. Or we've got cancelled, which might mean like I got a phone call halfway through doing it. Which is funny, I was flying a drone the other day that was controlled by a phone. And I got a phone call halfway through flying a drone. And it just completely lost connectivity. So this drone's just like hovering while I'm like trying to reconnect to it. Yeah, that wasn't good. Anyway, so cancelled is yeah, when it got interrupted for some reason. We probably don't care about any of these. Maybe we care about, yeah. Yeah, having hovering is better than a nosedive. Absolutely. Brad says, one thing that always gets me with using SkiaSharp is that its pixels are not scaled. So on the later iPhone, if you did a box in Xamarin.Forms at 100, 100, you'd need to do a 300 by 300 in SkiaSharp because of the 3x scale. Absolutely. Right. So the way I normally do that is you've got a few different ways. There's like a canvas dot. If I do a canvas, no, maybe it's on an info dot canvas. No, maybe it's on a surface. Canvas dot. Where is it? A rect? Does this have a rect on it? Oh, wait on. Let's just go info. Info dot. Yeah, so info dot width and height and rect and things like that. So there's some differences on whether it's. In fact, there's some documentation on this, which will explain it much better than I can. SkiaSharp device density. Yeah, so SkiaSharp always deals with pixels, right? So the SK Canvas view uses normal Xamarin.Forms widths and heights, canvas size and size. So they're going to be in pixels. So the thing that I normally use, and I think it's fine, right? Normally when I'm doing SkiaSharp, it's always just in pixels, but otherwise you can go Xamarin Essentials dot device display dot main display dot density, and then you just multiply it always by that. Exactly, Brad. Yeah, that one. Exactly. I'm probably not gonna have to scale that much though, because at this point now, I've already scaled my bitmap to be the right size. Let's see. Look. It wouldn't surprise me if I will need to do something. But yeah, that's the general view. Okay. So what are we doing? We've now got a pan, right? Now the pan values that I get here, E dot, right? So I got a total X and a total Y. And that's going to be based on how much it's panned since the beginning of this. Going dark for a bit. Going to hop on my bike while watching and learning. That's cool. Andros, you got a bike. I kind of want a bike in here as well, so I could watch YouTube and cycle. That'd be cool. But yeah, okay. Don't crash, whatever you do. So I need to know what the scroll position is. It's stationary. Yeah, I know. Well, I don't know, but I assumed it was stationary because otherwise that's like super dangerous. Let's put in a property here. And look, we probably want to realistically, you might want to move all of this stuff into a user control, but let's not do that. That's absolutely true. If you do crash it, just keep quiet. So we're gonna have a float. I never know what data types to work with SkiaSharp because it varies between, sometimes it needs floats, sometimes it needs doubles. I don't know. But we're going to have a scroll position. And we're going to make this a real property. But we're going to do some magic in here. Well, it's not really magic. We basically want to say when our scroll position changes, yeah, you're probably right. What do you reckon, Matt Goldman? A decimal? It could be an int. Make it an int. Okay, let's make it an int. Whatever I choose, I guarantee you I'm going to have to do a whole bunch of casting. Because that's how it always rolls for me. But anyway. Okay, so we got our scroll position. What we want to do is we want to store this value away. Right? And when we change this, let's invalidate the surface. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say scroll position equals e dot. And this is not going to work. I guarantee you this is not going to work. So that's a double. Great, whatever. Okay, let the casting begin. All right, so I'm going to have a total X, right? Because what I think is this is going to reset to 0 every time. Right? And so if we've got our scroll position now, when we're rendering this puppy, we can now start to say, let's not just draw the bitmap directly. Let's draw bits of the bitmap. So we're basically going to offset it, if you like. So we're still going to do a canvas clear. So we'll say draw our bitmap. Same, background bitmap, right? But instead of giving it a point, let's use like our source. There's one here that has a source and destination. So our source is going to be based on the scroll position. Our image is already the size of the screen, right? So we could say, let's give it let's just do this. SKRect source equals a new SKRect, right? So it's going to be based on the scroll position. That's where the X is going to be, right? Because we're only scrolling left and right. That's all we care about. And the image is as high as the screen. So we can just start at 0 and we can use the canvas height or the info height, right? Because we want to, we're copying sort of like a window. We want it to be this, and we're starting at scroll position. We want it to be scroll position plus the width of the screen. And our height or our bottom is just going to be the height, right? Because we've already scaled it to be the right height. Our destination is going to be a new, our destination is actually just going to be the rect of this, right? It's the screen rect. Yeah, probably. So if I now say, let's give it our source and our destination, we don't have to give it a paint because we're just blitting it. That is probs going to allow us to draw it, because we now have a pan, which is updating our scroll position, which is invalidating our surface, which is drawing a bitmap at the location. Or something like that. I may... All right, let's have a look. All right. It's backwards. Okay, it's kind of working. It's definitely backwards. Like I would want that to go this way. I bet you. Look, I'm going to take it as a win because it moves. Exactly. It's always backwards first time. I think we just want to invert it. Times it by -1, something like that, right? Also, look how slow it's going. Like I know it's going the wrong direction. I love the fact I laugh about it. Well, yeah, it's always good to laugh at your code. All right, we want to invert it. Also, our problem is this. You watch, every time I start a new thing, I reset back to the beginning of the bitmap. And that's because we're going to have to remember our scroll offset, right? Because I'm going to turn this around first. Because, okay, two things. First thing is it's scrolling too slow. And I bet you that's because and who mentioned this? This was Brad, right? Is that the X I'm getting here is going to be Xamarin.Forms X's. So it's not dealing with the density. So that's why it's if the density of this is 3, then this is going to be 3 times slower than what I'm actually doing, right? So I need to multiply it by the density. I need to invert the direction of it. Let's start there. Let's see if we can get that going. If we get that going, that's a good start, right? Where did I put where's my code? Okay. So let's work out, our offset, right? So let's just go our X offset, right, is, hey Dragon, how you doing? Good to see you. Kind of, in a weird way that I can't actually see you. So we'll times this by, and we'll go and use a good friend, Xamarin Essentials device display main display density. Right, so now what we're going to have is we're going to have that. So now it should scroll the right amount. I think we also want to that should get us to scroll at the right amount. Now, in order to solve, we're going to have to store our offsets, I think. So we're going to have a last X, and we're going to have to add it to our last X. Let's try this. Delta X equals, we're going to have a last X, right? And we're going to subtract it. So we're not going to add it, we're going to subtract it so that it negates it. And we'll get our offset here. And we want to keep this little puppy around because we're going to want to then store that. So we're going to want to say our last X equals our offset. Right, so we're kind of like, with these variables here, we're just keeping a track of where we're at, right? So every time, instead of plussing, we're subtracting to invert it. And then we should be able to say, instead of like getting the total X, because total X doesn't really do anything for us. And in fact, offset doesn't really do anything for us either. What we want is we want the delta, which I'm not sure is really the correct term, but anyway. So we're going to go get the scroll position and we're going to adjust it by the delta. And we're going to have to cast. Right. So now it should be accelerated, it should be inverted, it should be not resetting back to the beginning, hopefully. I also feel maybe I should get rid of those screens. Okay, let's have a look. Where's my image? Here's my image. There we go. So now it's scrolling the right amount. It's scrolling the right amount. We can scroll. Ooh. Ooh. I was hoping we wouldn't go back to 0 every time. Because we're storing our offset. It's going the right way though, that's good. Okay, we're kind of there. Okay, we need to put some bounds on this thing, right? Because we can scroll too far. Let's start there. Let's fix this thing up. So we want to basically come here and we want to say, we want to check that it's not less than 0. And it's not more than the image size minus the width of the image, if you know what I mean. So it doesn't scroll right off the page. We probably also want to say if the value hasn't changed, right? We don't want to do all this. We don't want to invalidate it if nothing's changed, but I don't know why it would. But we'll say if our scroll position equals our value, just get out of here. We don't care. Do you want to do that? Yeah, who cares? We'll optimize it later. Now what I'm going to do is I want to use a math dot, what's it called? Clamp, right? But in this version of .NET, there isn't a math.clamp, but we can do a math.clamp anyway. Math.clamp is like, it's just a combination of maxes and mins. So we'll say, let's get our normalized value or clamped value, right? So that's going to be math.min of the width of the bitmap And actually, we don't want the width of the bitmap, because if the bitmap is this big, whoa, we don't want to be scrolling all the way to there, because otherwise we've got this bit which is going to be on screen. So we actually want the bitmap width minus the size of our screen. So the size of our canvas width to stop it from popping off the end. Okay, so we're going to math.min, we get that value. So we want the minimum between that and it does have a way of getting the screen size, but we don't want the screen size. We want the pixel size. So this will give it to me. This will give me the size in pixels. So we don't want to, I'm assuming we don't want to always be going like, get the Xamarin.Forms size, times it by the density, blah, blah, blah. This will just give it to us. And the background bitmap is already in pixels as well. Okay, and then we want the maximum between 0, which is as far left as it got. Yeah, the whole density thing. We were talking about the whole density thing before and how annoying it is. So we're saying it's going to go between the math.max here. So it's always going to be above 0, clamping it to 0. And we're clamping it as well to the width of the bitmap minus the width of the screen. Okay, cool. So that's a clamp value. And then instead of using the value, we'll use the clamped value. Casting. Oops. Oh, I didn't want to do that. I wish there was a refactoring which said, have a look at a variable, have a look at all the things that are assigned to it, and just make it the right one. I suppose that's what var is, right? Bandros says, I'm surprised Skia doesn't use density display measurements over pixels though. I think the reason why is because if it used the one that included the density, you couldn't get down to the pixel level. So it errs on the side of you can address an individual pixel. Hey, Andrew. Welcome. Thanks for the follow. Thanks for joining. Oh, and Kellogg. Kellogg follows too. Beautiful. All right, get some wit. Thanks, Kellogg. Kellogg. So what have I got going on here? Now I've got a little bit of weirdness. Hang on, I come back into this image. The good news is I can't go past the beginning of the thing. So that's good. So we're scrolling here, that's good. Scrolling. I'm resetting back here to somewhere. So something in my calculations here isn't quite right. I'm thinking. So Bandro says, yeah, I'm thinking about how it deals with the complexity of other display sizes if you have that as part of the product. Maybe the scope of this app. I think it would work fine. Everything here should scale fine, I think. because the two bits that I scale, I deal with pixels and I deal with pixels of the screen. That's why when I first loaded the image, I turned it into a screen size so I wouldn't have to do the maths everywhere. I wonder, do I need to... Is that right? Is that right? Feels like I'm doing some gymnastics I don't need to do here. I also hate clicking through this page every time. Okay, cool. We're scrolling. How big is this image? There we are. People over here. Let's put a fish over there. Okay, cool. So now we can scroll. I wish it had acceleration. That would be awesome. Okay, that seems to work. Let's go have a look at a different image. Let's see if this one will. Oh, that's the same image. This image. Let me do this with my thumb. Here we are. Cool. So we've got ourselves a scrolling window. Oh, hang on. What's going on there? I feel like something was a little amiss. Basically, it seems to work. Okay, cool. So now we've got a scrolly window. It's time to add some markers in, I guess. Now, would this work? Let's have a look. Let's try this. Let's rotate this device and see if this would work. I hope this doesn't disconnect. You're going to rotate? Oh, wait, maybe I can just rotate it from here. Can I rotate it from... Yeah. Okay. So now we're in a horrible mode, but we should be able to come down here and select this. And if all's going right, yeah, it's now scaled to the size of the screen, right? Which means, there we are, that's the full scroll. So I think it's going to work with different size screens and different aspect ratios as well. So that's a win. What it's not going to do though, is if I rotate this now, it's not going to redraw it because I would have to recalculate that stuff. I'm not going to worry about that at the moment because I'm assuming that this app is pretty much a landscaper. Not a landscaper, portrait mode. All right. I'm good with that. I'm good with that so far. So now that we have that, it's time to bring in the fishies. Exactly, Bandros. Well, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like in reality, if this was going landscape, like, yeah, I do that in all my apps, right? If this was going landscape, then you'd probably do something like you wouldn't have the same layout. You'd probably move this stuff here over to there, and then this section here would be this carousel, and it would go there. That's probably what I'd do. And then this, you might even like have it over here, because it's super annoying to have a landscape and have the tab bar with just like 4 items on it. Anyway, whatever. Landscape's hard. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to have fish locations and we want to draw markers. So in order to do that, first thing I need to do is I need to put locations in for fish, and then draw a marker at that location, create some wacky callouts for this. Let's start simple. Let's draw a dot. Yeah, Dragon says the only thing I use for landscape is scanning barcodes. And even then, I don't force landscape. Fair enough. All right. Let's draw some dots at a location. So as I mentioned before, my assumption for the way I'm going to do this, because I don't want to do it in terms of pixels, because that doesn't make sense, right? Like we've got this image here, right? When we put the fish locations in, you don't want to say it's at this pixel location and this pixel location and that pixel location, because that'd be really hard to manage. I use Scanned It in an old app, Dragon. It's pretty nice with the licensing. Wow. So instead, we're going to use anchor positions. We're going to say this one would be at like 0.5, 0.75. So halfway across, 3/4 away down. Hey, Brow. Burp. Welcome. Thanks for the follow. Sound in your burp. I'm not sure I should do that. I'll get banned. So that's how we're going to do it. We're going to have fish locations which are relative to the image. That would make the most sense, because it would also work with different size screens. So we're gonna have to put that into our view model. So we have a location view model. We've got a location model. And then this has the lat long, has the people, has the fish. In the fish model, let's give them positions. So this is their position within a particular location, which would make sense. So, I don't know, probably like a double, because it's got to be precise, maybe. So we'll put this as an anchor X. Anchor Y. And then when we create these fish, let's give them an anchor X and an anchor Y. Put a little comma over here. Hey, Alexander, how you doing? Welcome. So let's put this one just halfway across the page. And I don't know what this image looks like, but we're probably going to end up with some flying fish here. But we'll put it at 0.75. Okay, so we've got a blue fish halfway across the lake. We've got a blue fish here. I think this is a silverfish. And then this one, we'll say anchor X is like, we'll space them out. We'll say 0.25. Anchor Y equals 0.5. I have no idea. We'll have to adjust these, but we'll make this one at 0.75. And we'll put this one at 0.75 as well. Lovely. All right. So now we know where our fish are relative to the scale of the image. Now we need to draw them. So we'll start off, we'll just draw a squircle, right? Let's draw a circle. But first, so we've drawn our bitmap. And then what we want to do is we want to go through all of our fish and draw dots. So we want to draw a marker, right? But for the moment, let's create a method for this. It'll be easier to create a method. So we'll say for each fish in our location fishies, so for every fish, we want to draw a marker. And we want to pass in the fish. Okay. So now we can work out position of the marker. Now we don't have references to where that needs to be, I guess. So we might need to pass in those, like the info in the canvas, and maybe also the, well, we got the background bitmap. We know what that is, right? So but the position of the marker is going to be basically SK point is going to be a new SK point, and its X value is going to be, well, it's all in pixels at this point, right? So our X is going to be equal to the, because we got a relative position, so it should be like the background bitmap width times by the fish's aspect, or the anchor. It's not aspect, it's the anchor, right? And cast 2, 3. And then our Y is going to be same deal, right? It's going to be the height. I wonder if it's expensive. Does anyone know? Let me just finish this. Oh, what's that? Does anyone know if it's more expensive in reality, in real terms, between, like, I could cache the size of the bitmap and then just use that, as opposed to going to the SK bitmap and asking for its width. I wonder whether one is more expensive than the other. I'm assuming if I cache it would be ever so slightly faster. But anyway, it's probably a SkiaSharp implementation detail. So I've got a marker position now. So I should know exactly where I need to draw that. Now I need to draw it onto the canvas. So I'm probably going to have to pass the canvas in here. And I should be able to say canvas.draw circle at my marker pos. And let's just I think that's right, Dragon. Would it change? Do we care? I'd say measure and test, but I mean, if this was what I kind of trust is like the framework design guidelines basically say anything from a property should basically be almost instant to return, right? It shouldn't really do too much work. If background bitmap width was going to do something complex and time consuming, it would be a method. That's what I understand. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't seem to be performing badly at the moment. Let's create a radius of 50 so we can see it. And let's use a SK paint. I should probably SK paint. SK paint. Whoops. We'll make it a color. For the moment, let's just say, make it white. For its, what is it? Is anti-aliased. I wish this was defaulted to true. Yeah, I guess nothing drastic. I think you're right. Paint style. Paint style? Style? Yeah, style. Stroke and fill. Hey, Bill. Welcome. Let's use our marker paint. So if this works, what it's going to do is it's going to call this for every fish. It's going to work out where the fish needs to be, which we could definitely cache. And then we're going to draw a circle of 50 pixels. So it could actually be quite small, even though 50 seems like a big number. Of course, it's not going to do anything if I don't compile. Okay. So let's see if we can spot our fishies. We have to have some loading indicator. So with this one, I don't know which one this is. Let's hunt for fish. I see no fish. There's no fish in there. There's no white circle. Is there? There's no white circle there. That doesn't work. Who wrote that code? Wasn't me. Let's see if it's even calling it. Yep. Bitmap width. We got our width and that. We got 0.25. So our marker position should be, yeah, a reasonable position. Yeah, that seems reasonable. We draw a circle. Whoop. And then we come back again. And we've got another fishy who's drawn at a different location. I feel like my fish should be drawn. Where's my fish? Definitely got no fish. Are they under the panorama? That's good, that's good thinking. I don't think so, because we draw our bitmap and then we draw our fish. Oh. Yeah, is 50 big enough? You know what the problem is? Here's what the problem is. The problem is, if we look at the values here, X and Y, now not the Z index, what's actually happening is we're drawing them at the position they are relative to the background bitmap, right? Now, remember that our background bitmap is like, I need to implement some velocity on that. The background bitmap is like this big, right? But we are just extracting a window of it, right? Yeah, and so I'm going and drawing these fish, but I'm drawing them like here and here. I need to modify that value by what my offset is. Yeah, off the screen. Toots off the screen. Okay. Do I need to know their real position? Can I do this? Marker pos dot offset them by scroll position, which is the left scroll position, and 0 offset there, right? So that's basically just saying get that, offset it by the amount of my screen, and that returns a void, so it just modifies that, and then I do marker pos. Sure. That'll totally work. It might work, actually. Or it won't work at all, like it didn't. Offset by... I think we want to offset it by a negative amount. We just pushed it even further off the screen. I think that would make sense, right? Pretty sure that's what we did. Hey, there's my fish. There's my floating fish. There should be another one over here. There we are. We've got it. Hang on a second. Oh my goodness. Thank you. I just got delivered a bagel with cream cheese. Damn. All right. cool. We got fish. We got markers, right? At 0.75, 0.25. This one's going to have to come down a little bit. And if we go to our other one, we should now have a marker at the right place, which was halfway. Yeah, at 0.75. That's our location of our fish. Flying fish, exactly. All right, cool. Well, that was a thing. Okay, we should celebrate that. Yay. Now, the next thing. Let's have a look. There's some complexity here. I'm assuming. I'm going to load up Adobe XD here for a second. So we've got 3 types of markers. Let me see if I've got this screen. Yeah, here we go. This is kind of interesting, right? So now what we want to do is we want to draw some markers for the fish, but what's kind of interesting is when the fish are off the screen, it draws these markers. I'll zoom this in a little bit, right? It draws a marker to say, hey, I'm off the screen that away. And this one says, I'm a fish, but I'm over here. And this one says, I'm on the screen, I'm right here. And it has a different kind of annotation. And it's also an annotation based on the content. So there's going to be a complexity with this puppy. And I'm assuming if I scroll this way and this fish comes on the screen, then it would want to be one of these as well. So it's kind of like every fish needs to have a left and right and on-screen annotation. All right. Let's start simple though. Why don't we just make it so that when a fish is on the screen, it draws this dot, a line, and just a picture of the fish. Let's start with that. And looking at this, the marker is kind of cool, actually. It's a couple of ovals and a transparent one. So we'll draw that as well. All right. Hey, Glenn Stevens, how you doing? We're just doing some panorama stuff here with our images, and it is a challenging fishing problem. And then we've got a little marker which is showing us where the fishy is, which is kind of cool. All right. Now, what should we do here? What's our next step? Should we just do a simple annotation? I think we should just do a simple annotation. So to do that, we're going to need an image of the fish. I think because we're getting the images of the fish, if I'm not mistaken, from a URL, we probably want to do that once and cache those. That sounds like a good idea, right? So in our on appearing, let's go through our fishies. From our view model, dot location dot fishies. Get out of my way. Dot fishies. And then we want to create an annotation. And that's going to involve loading up the image, creating a little bubble. Let's start with that. And then we'll probably want to cache that against each fish too, I think. So let's say create annotation for our fish. Cool. And that's going to be a bitmap pretty much, but we've actually got 3 annotations for a fish. Now, we also want to put these, we want to cache them, right? So I think we're going to want to have a class which is an annotation, maybe a fish annotation. Yeah. Is this going to do something cool? Like create a class for me? Yep. Okay. Inside of here, we're going to want to have, well, let's start simple. Let's have our on SkiaSharp. It's not SkiaSharp. It's an SK bitmap on screen. Oh my God. On screen annotation. Okay. And then what this is going to do is create the annotations. And then we're going to want to have like a collection of annotations. So we're going to want to have a collection, dictionary probably. Get rid of that private dictionary of fish model. What's this fish? Yeah, a fish model. I don't know if this is a good dictionary to have or not, but anyway, a fish model with a fish annotation. And we'll call this fish annotation. So I'm going to be sick of writing that. Okay, so we're basically going to say, come in here, create our annotations, and then in our fish annotations, add in for this fish, this set of annotations. So it's basically going to pre-cache that puppy, right? Is annotation spelled correctly? I don't know. Who cares? All right. I think the fish. Okay. So create ourselves an annotation first of all. Beautiful. And at the end, we're going to return that annotation. And somewhere in between here, we're going to create an image for the fish. Okay, cool. All right. Does that sound like a plan? Maybe. All right. So the annotation for a fish is going to look like this. It's going to look just like this, actually. Solid. Glenn says solid. Glenn says solid. It's solid. All right. There's 3 annotations. Let's not worry about that for the moment. I think what we're going to do is we're just going to do I could do this with this. We're going to do a rounded rect with some corners. Gradient, please. We're going to do a rounded corners, and then we're going to jam in a picture of a fish in here. That's it. That's one of these annotations. How big? I don't know. Let's make it some bigness. So I want to create a bitmap here. I'm just wondering whether do these methods. So what I want to do here is I want to do like annotation dot on screen annotation equals create an SK bitmap. That's what I'm really doing, right, for the fish. Should this be a method on a fish annotation? Should the fish annotation create itself? That's the question. So should this do... I don't know. Why don't we do that just to keep it out of the way? If it was an annotation factory, then yes. Yes, it's not really. Let's just write the code here anyway, because it's a clean screen and doesn't have all the other stuff on it. And it already needs SkiaSharp in here. Yeah, I think you're probably right. But okay, let's start off. This is going to be the strategy, right? Create a bitmap. Draw a rounded rect. Draw a fish in the middle. Ultimate door. Draw a fish in the middle. Ultimately, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to put these little call outs here. Now, I think what that would mean, I wonder whether we're better to create the bitmaps with this padding around it. So for example, the bitmap would be this big. And that way, later on when we put an annotation there, or we put an annotation there, annotation's the wrong word, an arrow. Probably doesn't really matter. But let's have some variables which are going to help us out. or some constants basically. Doesn't matter how big these are. 200. The height is going to be 100. We're going to have some padding. It's going to be 25. Who knows how big this will be, right? But then what we're going to do is for our bitmap, we're going to create a bitmap which is going to be padding amount, width, padding amount, and the same here, padding, height, padding. So the reason I want to do that, by the way, is because it means later on when we're creating different ones, the fish is still in the middle of the image, always in the middle, except for this one. This one's special. So we're going to create a bitmap. We're going to give it a width. So it's going to be 2 times. What does this take? Does it take a image info? I'm looking for it to take a width and a height. Yep. Okay. So the width is going to be width plus 2 times padding. The height plus 2 times padding. Okay, we now have a bitmap. Now we can draw on it. We can create a canvas for our bitmap. So canvases, always stick them in a using. Canvas for this bitmap. So we're going to draw on the bitmap that we're creating. Okay. Now we want to draw a rounded rect. So first thing we'll do in our canvas is we'll clear it. And then we'll go canvas dot draw rounded rect. And then we need a rect. Of course we do. We want to inset this by the padding. So here's a cool thing you can do with rects or SK rects. You can do this. You can say this is a new SK rect of 0, 0 to the bitmap width and the bitmap height. If you want to inset this all by padding amount, you can say outline dot inflate by, in our case, we don't want to inflate it, we want to deflate it. So we'll pass in a negative padding for the X and a negative padding for the Y. And that will make it all a little bit smaller. And so now we can say you can have the outline and we need a paint object. Okay, here's an XK paint. And it's going to have a color of, let's just make it white for the moment. Let's say it's Hey Ionix, how you doing? Welcome and welcome Raiders. Thanks for jumping in. We're doing some SkiaSharp, which Ionix I'm sure you're very familiar with. So Ionix, for those of you who don't know, also does Xamarin stuff. Hey Renee, thank you for the follow. So what we're doing at the moment, let me sort of, for those joining, what we're doing is we've got a design from, this is what I do on a Friday. A Friday, because I'm bored, I take a design from Dribble and I go ahead and reproduce it in Xamarin.Forms. So at the moment we've got this this design here. Hi from Brazil, but there were some Brazilian people earlier on, I think. So must be a popular time zone. It's when everyone's slacking off watching Twitch. All right. So what do we have? Let me show you what we're sort of working on here. So we're reproducing this fishing UI. We're halfway through doing some stuff, so it's a little bit messy at the moment. But I've basically got this carousel view, which is this first screen here. And then we go across to our fishing details screen. And we can see fish that are in this location. I don't know if anyone's into fishing, by the way. And then what we're doing is we're coming over to this. We're doing this page here at the moment. And so at the moment, what we have is we've got a sort of a panorama here. Okay, so we can sort of go across our view. And these dots are where the fish are. Okay, at the moment, we're just drawing circles, but we're just creating these annotations at the moment. So that's what we're working on, creating little fish annotations. So as we can scroll around and see our fish. And this fish shouldn't be up in the mountains, by the way. This fish should be down here. Yeah, so that's what we're doing. So right now, what we're doing is we're creating a method here, which takes a fish model and it's creating a bitmap in memory. And then it's going to draw the rounded rect. So it's basically doing this. It's drawing a rounded rect, and then it's going to get a fish, and it's going to draw a fish in the middle. And then it's going to cache that away. So anytime we need to draw it, anytime we need to draw it, we can do that. So there you go. That's what we're doing. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm creating a brush in order to draw this. So we're going to make it white. We're going to tell it we want it to be. We're not going to have any stroke technically, but let's put it as stroke and fill because that just seems easy, right? With SkiaSharp, because I don't care about performance, I set everything to be anti-alias to be true because it just looks nicer. I'm sure it has, it definitely has a performance associated with it, performance impact, but you want your images to look nice. And SkiaSharp's just so ridiculously fast. I don't think it's really a problem. Okay, so I've worked out how big the bitmap needs to be. I've created a rect. I've inset a little bit. And now hopefully if I draw that, yeah, no, yeah. Think of this as a test of your phone. If your phone doesn't kill itself, you've got a good phone. I've got some values up here. So we'll refactor this later. Okay. This code. That's 3 things we're going to refactor later. Hi Goku Jax, how you doing? Radius. So we can draw a rounded rect with Fantastic. Doing good. Love it. Annotation background. So that's our... That should now give us a rounded rect. Now what we need to do is we need to draw a fish in the middle of all of this. Yes, the counter. I should actually, when I do that counter, I should actually indicate what it's for, because I forget. All right. Radius. Is radius not good? Radius? Radius? What's wrong with radius? Oh, it's a size. Okay, that must be because there's an X and a Y size. Well, we want them to be the same. Okay, so we get ourselves a radius there. Beautiful. Now comes the bit where we want to draw a fish in the middle. So we could get our outline and we could inflate that again with the minus padding. Right, so basically what we did is we said, hey, we've got an image this big, and then we want to draw a rounded rect inside it. So we inflated it by padding amount on each side. So now we drew a thing that did this. Oh, this is a beautiful drawing. And then we want to draw a fish in the middle here. And so we want to inflate it a little bit more so that we're basically drawing our fish in this space. I can already see a problem that's going to happen here. One, that we don't have a fish image. And two, it's probably going to be all wacky in terms of scaling would be my guess. Also, we want to do this. Fish image equals bitmap helper thing that I created earlier. I wish I was that clever, Matt. I mean, yes, totally. That's what I meant. So now we have a fish image. We must surely have to await that. We do. And so then what I want to do is I want to say canvas.draw bitmap of my fish image to a destination rect, which is now my outline. And I don't need to give it a paint. All right. So now I create an annotation. I've got a bitmap. And I want to store this puppy away. Do you like the amount of error handling I'm doing here? So we get that bitmap, store it away here. Okay. Seems reasonable to me. So now I create the annotations for the fish. This method seems a little bit unnecessary, but we've now got our annotations. And so now what we do is in our draw marker, let's just draw the fish annotation. We'll see if it works. Canvas dot for the fish dot on the screen annotation. So that should give us a bitmap. And now we can say canvas dot draw bitmap annotation at our marker pos. Now we actually kind of don't really want to do that. We want to actually offset it up a little bit, but this will tell us if this works or whether it just explodes into a fiery ball of flames. I can already see one reason why it would do that, which would be because when we're loading all of this up, it's still going to be trying to draw our fishies. Still going to be loading our fishies. Because for a start, create annotations is not awaited. And it returns an annotation. So we want to say this is an async task because it's ultimately loading an image from the web. And this is, did I not? Yeah, this is, oh, this isn't, oh, async void task. Oh, we want to await this, I think. And then we return our annotation, but it could well be that it's going to start trying to draw this puppy before it's finished with this. I think I should be careful. And I should say, if I've got an annotation, let's do this. If I've got an annotation, then let's draw that annotation. If I don't have an annotation, let's just draw a circle. Okay. Maybe that's what we want. Let's watch it crash. Oh. Now let's watch it crash. I forgot to put the else. It's gonna draw the dot always. I always got a dot. Oh, well, we'll see if it gets fish. I expect it to crash anyway. Bam. And yet it didn't. We got a fish. It's a bit small, but it's there. See if we got another fish. We got another fish over here. We got fish. And a dot. All right. That's a good start. Now, what I'm going to do is get rid of the dot. In fact, why don't we do this? Why don't we make it such that we draw a proper dot, which in our case is an oval, and then we draw a line up, and then we'll get this annotation here, and we'll stick it down. I think these need to be drawn correctly with the aspect ratio, quite frankly. I think that the problem I foresaw was that it's basically got that, and it's drawing the fish into a rect that's in here, and it's scaling it. So I need to not change the aspect ratio of it. Anyway, let's worry about that a little bit later on. I also feel that these should be a little bit bigger. So let's make this, whoa, let's make this 250. All right. There we go. All right, let's have a look at our dot. Our dot is just an oval with a transparent color and then another oval with a white color. Beautiful. Okay, let's put that in. That's actually this one here. This here. So let's start with that. So this is our exact marker position, which is exactly where the fish is. So in our case, we want to basically draw our marker right there. We're going to need a couple of colors. So we'll put this as like the marker ring. This is going to have a color equal to, so I can say SK colors white with alpha, and then you've got to give it a byte. So I imagine this is 0 to FF. All right. Let's make it 50. Let's give it a style. I don't know if I need to give it a style. I don't know what the default is. We'll do a stroke and fill. And our good friend is anti-alias true. Okay, so now we have a marker. We're going to mark a ring. Let's draw the marker. So we could do like a canvas dot draw oval. What have we got here? We've got a point. That's probably what we want. So at our marker pos, we have a paint. So we had our marker ring. So this is our, oh wait on. If that's a point, then we need to give it an X and Y size. I don't know. It's an X and Y. So a Y of like 50. This is like an X, sorry, an X of 50. Oh, wait on. Is this gonna? Yeah, I need to give it a size. Okay, let's do this. New SK size. So we'll say it's 50. So this is an oval, so it's wider than it is high. So we'll say 50 by 20. And then we'll just draw another ring at the same position. This is our marker. Marker ring and marker paint. So that's our actual white one. And so this wants to be the same size, a little bit smaller. Maybe like, let's make it half the size. 25 by 10. Zoiks, I just hit F1. By 10. Okay. While we're at it, because we have to run it anyway. So that should maybe draw us our ring. Let's not do the fancy call out at the moment. Let's just stick one of these fish things here like this. So we'll draw a line up some amount. Draw a line from our marker pos to I don't want to offset that. I want to create a new SK point. The X is going to be the same. So it's going to be the same as marker pos.x. And we're going to say marker pos.y minus some amount. I'm going to just put it here because I'm going to need it to calculate this in a moment. So I'll say line length equals 300. I don't know. It's hard to know. You'd probably want to calculate it. So I'm going to say macapos minus the line length, and we're going to want to use our line paint, which we haven't created yet. So let's create our line paint. So this is going to be white. It's going to be anti-aliased. It's just going to be a stroke, but we're going to give it a stroke width of 4. Okay. And now we've got to draw the fish. Draw the fish. All right. So if I want to draw the fish, let's recalculate a new position for it. So it's going to be an SK point. Fish pause. So that's going to be, so we have a squircle. We've got a line. We want to put our fish here. The point that we specify is going to be this top left corner. So we need to go back half the width of the bitmap and the height of the bitmap. And we need to do that at the top of this line. So why don't we do this? Fish pos equals, well, let's just start with marker pos. I kind of like I kind of like using this approach. I don't know whether it's a good idea or not, but I sort of go fish pos and then let's offset this. So I'm offsetting at X. I'm going to go annotation dot width divided by 2. I also never know whether to go times 2 or times 0.5 or divided by 2. I don't know. So we're going to offset it there, and then we want to offset it as well. The annotation dot height plus the line length. Does that feel about right? It feels about right to me. And then we get our fish pos and we paint our fish there. Best annotation ever. Let's try. Where is it? It's when you discover like all sorts of badness on your screen. Okay, that didn't work at all. I drew a line. That looks pretty cool. In the right place. But the fish picture is in the wrong place. Yeah. Oh, right. We wanted to, because the fish picture's here, we wanted to negatively do it. Okay. That makes sense. Maths is hard. Yeah, I created the panorama using SkiaSharp, yes. There we are. Why has he got a little bit more gap than we need? Where's my other fish? Yeah, this one's actually in the water. Oh, that's because... You know what? I'm going to put half the height in here, so that that ends on the end of the stick. And that'll look much better. So the panorama with SkiaSharp was super simple. All we have for that is the key, I think, really, of making it simple, is we've got our background image, which we load, right? So it's just a great big image. And then what we do is we resize it for the screen. So by that, what I mean is, like, let's say we have this here. What I do is I load up this bitmap, and this bitmap is really long, like this, right? Basically load that up, make it so it's in the same aspect, not the same aspect ratio, but the same height as the phone, right? So I resize it so that it's, you know, however long, right? And then basically I have a pan gesture, which just has my scroll position as I scroll across. And then all I do is, there's like kind of a moving window, if you like, where we just grab a part of the bitmap wherever I'm up to, like if I'm scrolled up to there, and then get this part of the bitmap and then plonk it on the screen. And so obviously if I'm now scrolled over to here, I get this part and I plonk it onto the screen. And so that's what does that. I got to adjust this fish. This fish is flying. Come here, come here. Where's the other fish? There we are. So now we have an annotation that sits over top of our bitmap. And if we go to the other one, oops, that's not the other one. We go to the other fishing spot, we should have one that's in the center. Scrolly, 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 scrolly. You know what? I might make it so that when we first start out, it actually starts out in the middle of the screen. Does that make sense? That would probably be a good thing. But there we go. We've got some annotations in there. Lovely. It looks kind of nice. Second one looks good. Yeah, the second one looks good because the image is better. And the fish isn't in the sky. All right. What time is it? It's almost 1 o'clock for me. I was hoping to get much more done today, but I haven't. But it is pretty cool, and it's going to work with a slight bug horizontally as well. So if I rotate this and I come across here, because it's resizing the screen to be the width, you see now, here we are. We've got our fish right there, like about to attack this one. Oh, I want to become famous. Oh, no, I don't want to become famous. Yeah, cool. So I might have to leave it there because I've got work things to do. But next week, what we'll do, should be pretty quick. Famous last words. We'll make it so that this is what we kind of want to do. Actually, I can't show you in this one. I can show you in the other one where I've got multiple fish. The one flying in the sky and this fish over here. When this one leaves the screen, when it's off screen, we should put one of these style annotations in. So we'll do that. We'll stick a gyroscope behind it, so as it kind of feels like an AR app. Get rid of this border. Perhaps create a different annotation for when it's on the screen. But that's using text. I hate using text in SkiaSharp. And then maybe we'll have a little bit of tap action as well. And we're done. Famous last words. Took long enough just to get this going. All right. So yeah, I'm gonna have to sign off. Is there anyone to raid? Let's have a look. But oh, and just before I get carried away with raiding and things like that, I was gonna say, where did my screen go? Yeah, no worries, Bill. Thanks, Goku Jax. Thanks for joining you all. I'll just put, I'll just commit this code. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for joining. Thanks for all the nice conversation as well. And I was just going to say, if you're interested, GitHub location is there and the design is there. All right. Let's see. Anyone know anyone streaming? Fierce Kittens is streaming. She's always fun. Why don't we go and raid? Let's go and raid Fierce Kittens. Is that going to work? Oh, it doesn't want to allow it. Come on. Let's see if we can do that. Fierce Kittens creating some crazy looking outfit. Hope you stream to teach us about SkiaSharp. Yeah, so always happy to do some SkiaSharp stuff. All right, but anyway, I'm gonna jump off. Thanks everyone for joining in. Take care. Have a great weekend. Say hi to Fierce Kittens for me, and we'll see you later on. Bye for now. Say hi to Frankie the fish.